and accusing John Evans Fifi Atamels of institutionalizing this corruption. My name is Samson Ladi Anyanini. Welcome to the first edition, 2014, of Newsfile. We will be right back, and we will be joined by Jacob Bechabilamte, Mahama Yarega, Dominic Nutuwo, George Lowe, and a host of others. We'll be right back. You're welcome back. This is Newsfile on Joy 99.7 FM and on Multi-TV. This is your Joy News channel. We are live on Love FM in Kumasi and over a dozen affiliate stations across the country. And for those of us, you who are listening to us abroad, you are listening in the UK or elsewhere in Europe, it's on the ABN Sky platform. Thank you very much indeed. Of course, it's also available at myjoyonline.com and Multi-TV World/streams. Now, this show is brought to you by the candid sponsorship of MTN. Everywhere you go, Errata Motors, that's where you get the best vehicles at the best prices. Star Assurance, that's your CIMG insurance company of the year 2012, and they are your solid partner. And of course, thanks to Theresa Latida for making me look sharp. I'll tell you some promo that is underway from Latida as well subsequently. My guest in the studio, Jake Otanka Obechebe Lamte. He chairs the New Patriotic Party. Mahama Yarega is MP and is Minister of Information and Media Relations. We also have Nana Akomia. I had been expecting Dominic Nituwo. What happened? Because he's the one that we had a deal with to be on the show.
Dominic, unfortunately,
can't make it.
Cannot make it.
Right. Thanks. Always good to have you also. Nana Akomia is a former communications director of the New Patriotic Party. Now he says he is a chief foot soldier. Thank you very much. George Lowe is MP, is a lawyer, and is also this the MP for North Dai. He abandoned me halfway when we're doing a case. How are you?
I haven't seen you since you came to marry from my constituency and took off.
Okay, those disclosures, leave them. Leave them. All right, and then subsequently we'll be joined by John Ndebogre. He is a lawyer and former MP for Zebila. He has some very interesting ideas on John Mahama's 1 year in office and also the Fortis deal as well. Thank you very much indeed. And I must say that we are grateful and very thankful to the millions of dedicated, discerning listeners and viewers of Newsfile. Well, we won't always get it right, but we will keep to the high standards and make sure that 2014 you get the very best, all in the process of making sure that we have a good democracy in this country. Thanks for all the high commendations and the good feedback. We'll use them to improve on what we do. You know yourselves. Thank you very much indeed. We can't mention your names to say thanks to you. And in Kumasi, I want to say good morning to you, Dr. Charles Akayure of the BRRI. I never do this. And also to you, Dr. Sky Gao. Thanks very much indeed. Now, my guests are seated. And I want to say good morning and welcome to you, gentlemen.
Good morning.
This will be your first time. Happy New Year. This will be your first time on Newsfile, is it?
That's correct, yes.
Great. And I'm very happy to have you on the show. Now, as I told you earlier, the president has been celebrating 1 year of responsible, transparent, and accountable governance. His critics say that's not the case. It's rather the other way. It is irresponsible, unaccountable, and not so transparent year of governance. We want to project it into the broader picture or the broader theme to discuss these matters in respect of good governance, leadership, the issues of energy, the economy, and all that matters. But before we do so, the Merchant Bank and Fortis Equity Fund deal just won't go away yet. You're aware of what happened in Parliament what the majority did and what the minority also had to do. We will look at that matter first, and then when we find time, we will go to ask why Jerry John Rawlings chooses the gathering of young future leaders at Adidome Senior High School to stir up the honest nest, unashamedly beating his chest about sacrificing lives in his fight against corruption, as he once again attacks John Ejekum Kufuor, describing him as an autocratic thief and accusing John Evans Fifi Atamils of institutionalizing corruption. It appears he wants us to deal with this mass murder through his means and not the John Mahama democratic rule of law due process manner. We'll look at all of those also on the show. You're most welcome. Your views and comments, 1422, that's the text line. You can post them on our Facebook wall as well. And also, you can send me a mail to newsfile@myjoyonline.com. Let's go to Parliament, hear Doa Jaho, hear the majority and hear the minority, and come deal with that issue speedily.
The point of order is hereby sustained. Accordingly, the motion calling on this House to investigate the offer by an acquisition by Fortis Equity Fund Limited and other related matters is ruled out of order. I must quickly add, that there are other tools available to this House that can be utilized if the House so decide, and it is entirely left to the House to decide as much.
It is clear from the above Senate SIC did not flout any regulation, and there was full transparency in this transaction, and the interest of the working people of Ghana was better served than throwing more workers' contribution into a leaking bank. We wish to state that the transaction was transparently conducted in conformity with all the laws of Ghana and under the supervision of the Bank of Ghana. We have every confidence that the new majority shareholders who have management control will lift Merchant Bank out of its present predicament.
Ruling will usually take into consideration the views expressed by parties in the matter. It is significant to note that the ruling from the Right Honourable Doa Jaho represented just one side of the equation. All the arguments that we raised by myself, by the Honourable Papu Osei were not factored into that so-called ruling. What further evidence does one need to establish that there was a well-rehearsed conspiracy to prevent the motion from being moved, whilst yet pretending to encourage leadership of both the majority and minority to find common ground, as happened last Monday?
Thank you. You heard Doa Jaho, Speaker of Parliament. You heard Dr. Benjamin Kumbo. He is the majority leader. And you heard Minority Leader Osei Sabonsu on the Merchant Bank controversial deal. Now, my very first question, and I'm going to put that to Nana Akomia. The opposition, you are no more in Parliament, but certainly you must be very abreast with the issues. We have discussed these matters also on this platform a number of times. What else is the minority looking for? That's the question I really want to ask, really, because we know that there is already a judicial inquiry that is going on. What different results do you expect a parliamentary, bipartisan parliamentary, committee to arrive at?
Well, thank you and good morning to your viewers and your listeners. The ruling that came, I think, last Monday, like the minority leader said, was clearly a very well-rehearsed conspiracy. There's no other way to describe it. And on that occasion, my good friend, the Speaker of Parliament, Doa Jaho, lived up to the billing of an enforcer. He had been characterized as somebody who had been put there to impose the will of the executive on Parliament. These are not my words. These are words coming from a senior member of the government. And that he was put there to play the role of an enforcer. And his action on Monday clearly put him into the role of the enforcer and not somebody who was going to adjudicate fairly on a matter before Parliament.
And the minority is just realizing this because after he's done this against you, something has gone against you?
No, the basis of the minority's claim are very clear. You have a situation where the Speaker adjourns, he admits a motion, and then on the floor, he admits a motion, he recalls Parliament for an extraordinary sitting, and then he wouldn't let the motion be moved at all, the very purpose for which Parliament had been summoned. The basis was that there's an order in the Standing Orders of Parliament that provides that when the matter is before the law courts of Ghana, another arm of government may not deal with the matter in such a way as to prejudice the matter in court. Fair deal.
Let me read that order for you. That's order 93.1 of the Standing Orders of Ghana's Parliament. And it says that reference shall not be made to any matter on which judicial decision is pending in such a way as may, in the opinion of Mr. Speaker, prejudice the interest of parties to the action.
Yes, thank you. So that was the basis of the ruling. But then you have a situation where Doa Jaho, the Speaker himself, had allowed matters to proceed in Parliament when those matters are pending in court. The Mumuni confirmation hearings is a clear example where the very matter that was in dispute about Mr. Mumuni's nomination, some financial impropriety, and those matters were in court. And the matter was brought up to the Appointments Committee that we cannot deal with this nominee because the matters are in court. Doa Jaho overruled it and said that Parliament was a master of his own rules and Parliament will have to do its duty. And so it went ahead. The second matter was on the 45 constituencies. Even before the 45 constituencies, the STS matter, somebody had taken the STS matter to court. And yet still, Parliament, just 2 or 3 years ago, went ahead to deal with the STS matter. And then the 45 constituencies. Those matters were in court. And yet Doa Jaho, the Speaker, at that time, Deputy Speaker, but he presided, let the Parliament deal with the matters, even though the court issues were brought to his attention. So this last ruling doesn't go according to the precedent that he himself had set. So it renders
the discretion to exercise.
Yeah,
that's what the order gives him. It's a discretion that is absolutely his to exercise.
But you know more than I do, because you are a lawyer, that discretionary power also has things that they should conform to.
Article 296, that it ought not to be exercised arbitrarily or in a way that is not fair. Is that what you're saying?
You've put it better than I could. So discretionary power should be used not in an arbitrary manner. Absolutely. And especially when there's precedent by the very same person to guide us. And then he adjourns he's going to adjourn for 1 hour to deliberate on the matter and give a ruling.
But you haven't noted that he still depended on precedents.
Which one?
He depended on precedent, Peter Alajete. That's what he used in deciding the matter.
And he didn't depend on his own precedents? I thought that Alajete is gone and that since you've been in the chair and you have also dealt with those matters, you would rely on your own precedent. It's exercising discretionary power in a fair manner to rely on your own precedents. Because when we were giving those rulings, you didn't rely on Peter Alajete's precedent. So it's a difficulty. And then he says he's going to retire for an hour, and he comes back in those 60 minutes. He's able to come and cite Skin May, this big fat book. The Minister for Information has kindly brought a copy to us. He cites Skin May. Didn't cite everything in there. Cites portions that suited the ruling he wanted to give, and left out portions that didn't suit the ruling. cited Hansard, cited several authorities, including Ajete, all in those 1 hour. But you see, what gave the game away is that the NDC caucus, they gave a press conference around 4 p.m. after the ruling. And the printed press conference that he had was good morning. And indeed, they are thanking the speaker for his excellent ruling on the matter. And this press conference was at 4 p.m. So really, it's a farce. It's a farce. And it's unfortunate. And I hope that Parliament is not taking down this road.
The substance of the question I asked you is, what different outcome do you expect with a parliamentary inquiry, because we know that the matter is presently before the courts?
Well, the door of a parliamentary inquiry seems to be blocked. Seems to be blocked for now. But there are other options open to not just the minority, the civil society. The TUC has expressed dissatisfaction over the sale. They've also said they're going to take some action. There are other civil society organizations that are going to take some action. So there are other options outside Parliament that will be explored, that will come out later.
Okay, let's hear from Mahama Yarga. You were also in Parliament on the day, were you?
I was there.
Right.
Very much so.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, it's not just the ministers like Ayariga. There's General Secretary of the party was there, the Deputy General Secretary. I don't know if it's a party matter, but all of them were there. It's not just Ayariga.
Okay, so now let's hear Ayariga.
Anyway.
Thank you very much. I think that in discussing this matter, one can adopt a number of approaches. We can adopt the propagandist approach, where what we are simply trying to do is to manufacture issues, procedural issues, and etc., and try to create an impression that the majority and the speaker were in a grand conspiracy to avoid the discussion of a matter and to misrepresent to the public that there is some irregularity about that matter. That's one approach.
Manufacturing issues, that's what you say.
Precisely.
It may be a minor issue, but this is not being manufactured. Good morning. That's what the press statement starts, how it starts.
I think that if you focus on what may either be a typo in a press conference and leave the substantive issues, the substantive issues will get buried and Ghanaians will lose that opportunity.
Okay,
so I want to crave your indulgence this morning
to ignore the typos,
to give me an opportunity to deal not with the procedural issues, but with the substantive issues. Because I think that that is what Ghanaians are entitled to. Not the political gimmicks, not the psyops, not the propaganda, the facts, the truth. What was all this about? It was about the sale of shares in Merchant Bank. What was it about the sale of shares in Merchant Bank that got the minority, for the first time, outside the sitting of Parliament, to compel the recall of Parliament? One, I believe building on what the former spokesperson of President John Agyekum Kufuor, Andrews Awene, had done, which was to go to court and seek some reliefs in court, largely on the grounds that in the exercise of the powers of all the actors in the sale of the shares of Merchant Bank, they had abused their discretionary powers. And what was his basis for saying that they had abused their discretionary powers? His sole basis for saying that they had abused their discretionary powers was that they did not advertise the sale of the shares, and therefore did not give the whole world the opportunity to also make offers to buy the shares, in which case they claim that there would have been more competitive offers for the sale of the shares, and the Ghanaian contributor to the pension scheme would have had a better opportunity to take the best offer and thereby maximize the value of his contribution to the pension scheme. That basically is the gravamen of the matter, that there was no notice. And because there was no notice, there was no opportunity for everybody to participate. And because there was no opportunity for everybody to participate, they are not sure that the valuation was right. They are not sure that the offers that were made were the best offers. And they are not sure that those who exercised their discretion in preference for a particular offer did so fairly, candidly, and in accordance with the standards set in Article 296. That is the gravamen of the matter. Notice.
You would agree that this
Let me finish. You see, you want to go back to the theatrics of Parliament. And I'm saying, let's go away from the theatrics of Parliament. Let's go away from press conferences. Let's get to the bottom of the matter. This is what Ghanaians want to know. Where you pretend that you are concerned about pension funds and contributors' money. I want us to focus on that concern for now. Then we can move to the theatrics and see if there's any value to it. Notice that there was no notice.
You say that is the gravamen of Andrew Awuni's suit in court.
Yes, because I have the writ of summons. I have the writ of summons.
The court in its recent ruling does not make that the gravamen of Andrew Awuni's suit in court.
The court did not go into the substance of Andrew Awuni's writ.
But
there was a preliminary objection relating to.
I know about that. I'm very clear about that. Let me just read you a paragraph here. And this is the court. The court says the gravamen of the plaintiff, that's Andrew Awuni, the gravamen of the plaintiff's action is contained in paragraph 72 of the statement of claim. And he says that the defendant invested trust funds in the first defendant to acquire 68.75% equity in the first defendant for and on behalf of the contributors like himself. And that in 2007, a multi-million United States dollar loan facility was approved by the first defendant fraudulently. Are you getting it? So they are alleging fraud. So I just wanted to point out to you that they are saying, among other things, not exactly what you say is the gravamen of what is in court. You can proceed.
I'm holding the writ of summons. Is that okay? And I'm holding the writ of summons, and the writ of summons sets out the claims of the first defendant. If you read from 1 to, I think, paragraphs 39, if you read all of it, there's just one thread that binds all of them. A claim that because there was no openness in the process, there was no real opportunity for everybody to participate, in which case the trustees would have benefited from multiple offers from which to choose the best offer to maximize the benefit to the pension contributor. That is the gravamen of the matter. That is it. And if you want, let's just read the claims. Wherefore, plaintiff claims against defendants as follows. A declaration that second defendant's decision to accept fourth defendant's bid to acquire 90% of second defendant's 90.6% shares in first defendant being discretionary, same was in violation of Article 296 of the 1992 Constitution, which requires that any person or authority in whom discretionary power is vested has a duty to be fair and candid, as the intention to sell the said shares to fourth defendant was not published in the local or international media to enable as many offers as possible to be received and considered for value for money.
Great.
Listen.
So move on and let's project it into Parliament.
So if you read all these, and there are about 12 of the paragraphs in terms of the claims.
Right.
If you read every single, they make reference to lack of publicity, lack of opportunity for people to participate, and they believe that consequently there was no value for money. That is the gravamen of the claim. My argument is that if that is the gravamen of the matter, you see, this whole discourse is based on a false premise that when you are selling shares in merchant bank, you have to publicize it. and you will have to take the best offers. And I'm here today to state that they got it fundamentally wrong. Why do I say so? Merchant Bank is a private limited liability company. And as a private limited liability company, they are governed by the Companies Code. And in Section 9 of the Companies Code, it states that a private limited liability company, by its nature, is restricted in terms of the categories of people who can participate in owning shares in the company. And the company is also restricted and cannot publicly advertise for the sale of its shares. And I will crave your indulgence to just quote the specific section of the Companies Act 1963. And it is here. You can join me to read it. A private company is a company which by its regulations restricts the right to transfer its shares, prohibits the company, this is C, is that okay? 3C, 9.3C, prohibits the company from making an invitation to the public to acquire shares or debentures of the company. So Merchant Bank was prohibited from what Andrew Zawoni wanted them to do. They could not publicly advertise that they want to sell their shares because they are a private limited liability company incorporated in 1971 or 72. So fundamentally, the whole discourse is flawed. That is what this whole discussion is about.
There's an angle. There's an angle that he looks at it. There's an angle that he looks at it.
Yes.
And that angle is that as trustees of the funds of workers of this country, they owe a duty, a fiduciary one, to the contributors. And having to recapitalize Merchant Bank over the period, those public funds ought to be dealt with, properly.
Yes. Okay. So let's get to that one. How those public funds should be dealt with properly. They are matters that are decided on by the board of directors of Merchant Bank. And because of the shareholding in Merchant Bank, because it's largely owned by two entities in which the public and workers have an interest, Merchant Bank has board members who represent all these constituencies. And because they represent these constituencies, it is their duty at the level of the board to factor in all these interests in decisions as to whether or not they should approve the sale of floated shares to whoever.
So
that's the first fundamental thing.
So
and that is what the court alluded to when it questioned the capacity of Andrews Awini to be sending the matter to a court. Because they said, look, yes, you may be a contributor, you may have interest, but you see, this is a public entity and there's a governance structure and there are rules that govern how it should be done. And so no matter your interest, which the court wasn't really doubting, you must have regards to governance arrangement. We cannot open the floodgates for this kind of arrangement where the over, 800,000, 1 million workers can all sue on every single investment decision that the board of Merchant Bank takes. That fundamentally is the issue.
In effect, to the Parliament decision and procedure.
I will go back to the Parliament's decision and procedure, but I want this clear so that people will know.
No, I want you to quickly move there. Because you know what?
I'll get there right now.
We're dealing with time on radio. And you've had to speak for such a long time. And I oblige you that.
We need to be fair to
but you see, you have another colleague here who would continue from where you may have stopped.
No, I came here on my own.
I understand that. I understand
that. On my own.
This is another member of Parliament who also spoke to this matter in the House.
He may be very interested in the procedural issues. But let me get to that. So fundamentally, nothing untoward, nothing illegal, nothing wrong happened. If you give me time, I will go into the details of the situation of Merchant Bank that necessitated the flotation of shares and the sale of those shares to people who have money to buy. They may not necessarily be bankers.
Right.
People misunderstand that Fortis had to be a well-established, experienced banker to buy shares.
Don't worry.
We are selling shares to people who have money to buy the shares.
Let me get to the procedural
issues. Let me get back to the procedural issues. Now, the procedural issues in Parliament. I take it from...
And do that in 2 minutes.
No, I can take that in 2 minutes. No, I can't take that. Then you don't really
so
want to benefit from the wealth of information that I have.
Let me allow George to deal with that matter.
No, wait. You don't want the public to benefit from the wealth of information I have in relation to procedural matters.
Do that in 2 minutes.
Yes.
You can. Try.
I'll try. First and foremost, on the issue of the Speaker, Mr. Do-Ajahu, and his ruling. And I regret that a Speaker gives a ruling and some members of the minority go outside, organize a press conference, and openly impugn the integrity of the Speaker of Parliament. Indeed, Peter Lajete, the late Speaker, indicated that once a Speaker gives his ruling, it is not subject to debate, not the least by members of Parliament, because we are the ones who should first respect the institution of Parliament.
Why judges give rulings, even the Supreme Court, and we criticize them because this is what you do in a democracy.
You can engage in an academic analysis. You are a lawyer. You can engage in an academic analysis of a ruling of a judge with a view to building on the law. Is that okay? But to go out and discuss the matter in such a way that you impugn the integrity of the judge.
You can do that if you have evidence.
The integrity of the judge. It's scandalous.
If you have evidence of that, you can do that, can't you?
Well, let's get to the so-called evidence. First, you take previous rulings of Mr. Do-Ajahu, and then you conclude that because previously he had said that when a matter is in court, you can still deliberate on issues related somehow to that matter in Parliament. Now, there is a clear distinction in what Do-Ajahu is saying. Do-Ajahu is saying that, listen, Parliament has its core responsibilities. The judiciary has its core responsibilities. And the executive also has its core responsibilities. What are the core responsibilities of Parliament? The core responsibility of Parliament in our Constitution is to vet and approve ministerial nominees for the President when he nominates them. Secondly, Parliament's core responsibility is to pass legislation. The core responsibility of the judiciary is to interpret the law and to apply the law. Now, when a matter relates to the core responsibility of Parliament, if some aspect of that matter is in court, it doesn't preclude Parliament from dealing with its core responsibilities. Because invariably, there's always an opportunity for a remedy if you disagree with parliamentary exercise of its core responsibility. Let me show you how. If Parliament is passing a law, that's its core responsibilities, and you disagree with a clause of the law, and so this clause of the law that you are debating in the chamber is unconstitutional, and you run to the Supreme Court, the Supreme Court will tell them, wait, let them pass it. If they pass it, and what they have passed is inconsistent with the Constitution, then our core responsibility of interpreting and enforcing the Constitution will now be activated.
Right.
And so we will declare their action as unconstitutional. So don't be in a hurry. Wait for them to finish. Are you getting the point?
Right.
That was what happened in the case of the 45 new constituencies. When Parliament was seized with the exercise of its core responsibility of passing an LI that creates constituencies, then somebody went to court and then used his claim that the matter was in court to try to stop the Speaker from allowing Parliament to proceed on the matter. The Speaker said, no. Our core responsibility is to pass this law. If after we have passed it, it is unconstitutional, you can still go to the same Supreme Court and they will have our completed deed to now test the constitutionality of it. Let me finish. No. So let me now apply his position to this specific ruling. So in this particular instance, he says that vice versa, if a matter is the core responsibility of the judiciary and it is before them, wait and let them finish exercising their functions.
Bottom line.
If subsequently there is a problem. And you think that a law should be passed remedying the outcome of that decision. Is that okay?
Yeah, you've made the point. You've made the point.
Institutions should be created by law.
You've made the point. With the greatest of respect, you've made the point. Thank you very much.
I hope the ordinary person will understand.
You've made the point. You've made the point. The people who are listening to this show have the capacity to understand the points that you're making. Now, Jake, I don't know how you appreciate all of this, back and forth in respect of the merchant bank matter, and it's going to Parliament and the end result.
Well, let me state that I have a double disappointment. I was disappointed that it had to go to Parliament, that Parliament had to bring it up. Disappointed because too many of the things that affect all of us, in which we should all be engaged, unfortunately, we continue to leave unresolved, and then you get the political parties involved in it, and then the whole thing becomes politicized. The Honourable Minister just mentioned just now the person who took the matter to court. I believe he took the matter to court as a contributor to SNIT.
As a private citizen.
Not as a private citizen, not as a former spokesperson of the MPP president. But immediately you classify him as that, you're immediately turning around and saying that this is therefore MPP, and then it becomes MPP versus NDC. The money in SNIT does not belong only to MPP people. The money in SNIT belongs to a whole host of Ghanaians, MPP, NDC, CPP, whatever. People of no party and no affiliation and no interest in politics. It's their money, it's their future. I would really like to see much more engagement by people, by civil society, in matters that affect them, taking it out of the realms of partisan dispute. Because once it becomes partisan dispute, then everything shuts down. I was also more disappointed that having taken it to Parliament, then it was treated in the way that it was treated. Because from the explanation we've just heard, all you hear is smokes and mirrors. Smokes and mirrors. It's hiding here, it's hiding there. Is you can go here, but when you go there, we're going to block it here when you go there. And at the end of the day, the people of this country will be left very, very dissatisfied. And they are not supposed to be left very, very dissatisfied when it comes to the management of their money. We're told that Merchant Bank is a private company, therefore it has absolute control on how it sells its shares. It doesn't have to advertise. But the shares were owned by the people of Ghana. And therefore, if I am a contributor to SNIT and I have my money in SNIT, I feel I have some entitlement that SNIT should come and tell me how they have sold the shares and how in selling the shares they have actually got me the best possible deal. This whole deal has been shrouded with all sorts of rumors and insinuations.
Whilst you may have that entitlement that you just spoke about, presently, now, the decision of the courts, which is the rule, is that an individual contributor to SNIT has no right or capacity to take the money in court on the matter.
Therefore, I believe that the public and all the contributors should start to make even more noise about how it was. Because we're shrouded in all sorts of information and misinformation. If I'm right, again, I'm not always right, and I may not be right on this occasion, there was a story a few months ago that a South African bank was going to buy Merchant Bank. And they were going to pay a lot more money than this Fortis that has come. I don't know. Okay? Fortis, who is now being done. Okay, the minute I heard the name Fortis, little alarm bells went off in my head, because this would not be the first time since I've been around government when people have come to do things in Ghana using names that are close to international names that are highly respected. So that you start to think that, maybe it's was it CDC or the World Bank or whatever it is, that is coming in to lend you money and lend you billions.
That's
and then
Fortis.
It turns out,
this is Fortis.
Okay, but then I'm told that if you Google this particular institution, you find that there's nothing there. It started a couple of months ago. The capital within it is, stated capital within it is not something that would give credence to its capacity to do all these things and have all this money.
Well, it's paid 90 million Ghana cedis to the Bank of Ghana.
Which just tells you nothing. It doesn't tell you the sources of money. It doesn't tell you, that you have a proper chain of the money. There are even now, this is a country of rumors. There are even rumors now about the source of that 90 million cedis. Okay, so And it's rumors that have had people killed in the past. It's rumors that have led to all sorts of disruptions of our lives in the past. The time has come where everything should be done transparently. Whenever we can do it transparently, let us do it transparently.
So what's the point? We are presently in the Court of Appeal, seeking the opportunity.
Who is in the Court of Appeal?
Andrew Sawuni.
Okay, but he is one person.
Yes, seeking the opportunity.
What about the other thousands?
Seeking the opportunity to have Merchant Bank disclose, or the Bank of Ghana disclose, the source of this money you're talking about, which is shrouded in secrecy. So what again do we want by a parliamentary inquiry?
Because I think the reason why they brought about the parliamentary inquiry, because they felt that what would happen is that if Andrew Awuni was blocked from where he was going, then there would be a block, and then the people of this country would have no access to this information. And that Parliament, being at the level it is, could possibly unblock some of these things. I hope, and I'm sure, that our members of Parliament will continue to struggle to unblock access to information on this particular deal. Whether they do it alone or they do it together, it has to be done, because these are the things that when you shroud them, you think that you've dealt with them, but you haven't dealt with them. They are under the surface, they are festering, they are spoiling the whole character of the nation. They are a cancer that grows and grows and grows, and we don't know how cancers erupt at a later time.
Your opponents will say this is self-inflicted cancer, if you like.
By them. They inflicted upon themselves and inflicted upon all of us. I mean, they did not have to. The chairman of SNIT should come and give us an account of how this whole thing happened. And he should give us his reasoning about what he knew about Fortis before he decided to guide the board to accept Fortis's bid. And why it is that Fortis's bid is stronger, makes more sense than the bid by Rand, who apparently were offering more money. All these are things that the people who have contributed to SNIT should know about. It's their money.
Okay.
And our people are very, very particular about their money. Even if you think you've dampened them down, at the end of the day, that thing rankles and it disrupts and it disturbs our whole governance.
George, I've heard you in Parliament. I've heard you in Parliament speak about
this stage. It's very important at this stage. I think, is that a document you have? Good, excellent. So just
he's going to deal with it. Yeah. I told you about that. Mahama. Okay, I've heard you speak on this matter also in Parliament. Well, the minority says it's not going to give up. What we've had Labour through the TUC suggest, and other Labour groups suggest that this is just the beginning of this whole, matter. They are going to pursue it. The minority suggests also including even pursuing it at the level of Shraj, which I think may be dead at best, because you can't go to Shraj on this matter if the ruling in Parliament holds. What are you going to say about Jake's introduction of the need for full disclosure of some sort by SNIT?
Well, thank you very much, and once again, good morning to our viewers and listeners. Something, as I sit there and listen to Nana Kumi, and I listen to Jake, and I listen to the Information Minister, I just get the impression that, typical Ghana way of doing things. Most people are talking about Fortis and Merchant Bank without even understanding what the issues are.
Not most.
I'm telling you, and
Don't take them for granted.
Jake demonstrates that seriously right now. He's talking about SNIT board chairman coming out to tell us how the deal went. And what is this? This is a statement by SNIT on the sale of Merchant Bank Ghana Limited in the Daily Graphic.
Issued when?
Issued on November 25th, 2013. Mm-hmm. This.
What does it say? What does it say?
It gives you a whole rundown, okay? Salient points of the first round offer, first round offered, the activities that went on with dates, okay? And which other banks or which other entities also offered shares, and how they arrived at Fortis.
Do you find this to be in the nature of full disclosure? You're a lawyer.
You are a lawyer. Constructive notice. Please, we do not have to go and translate this in all the 100 and something languages
they summarize the processes and give you bullet points.
Please, I am saying that if you read the ruling that you yourself are talking about, the only reason why we appoint people to board level at the bank and at SNIT is because we are also saying to them that we trust you enough to cater for our interest. So it is neither here or there. Other than that, all of us every day will go to Merchant Bank and ask them, why did you give this man loan?
why did you pay this worker so much? That is not how corporate arrangements are. So first and foremost, we must all understand why certain things have been put in place as a people, okay? And until and unless we accept that we have given ourselves rules in our company's code, rules in our constitution, laws, and all these conventions and a way of doing things, until and unless we agree to go according to those things, all these arguments will keep going on and it will lead us all to nowhere. Let's take TUC, for instance. I am appalled, for instance, at the TUC saying they are going to court. And it's becoming normal. They sit on a PR issue, and when they increase and people shout, they say, okay, we don't agree, let's go and have a second look. They sit on Senate board, a decision is taken. When the decision is being implemented, they say, well, we will need to say, I mean, this is hypocritical.
You sit in Parliament. Parliament takes a collective decision. When you don't agree, you come out and hold a press conference.
But you do not go and say that the process should be unwind. For instance, and I'm coming to that. First and foremost, I'm disappointed with my brothers and some of the seniors that I respect. That after the Speaker of Parliament, we as a Parliament have elected, and our standing orders and convention and rule says that when the Speaker has taken a decision, the only way you can challenge that decision is by a substantive motion. And then you go and organize a press conference, and to my shock, members of Parliament in leadership sit and call and say that the Speaker was dishonest. They should be ashamed of themselves to start with. And I am ashamed that I have to deal with people like that on
You haven't heard worse from your party in previous times when you were in opposition?
Unless you give me, I think that, you see, unless you give me the evidence, but I'm saying that nobody says that the Speaker is from heaven. But I'm saying that we ourselves continue to believe that the only parliament we have is the Parliament of Ghana today. And until we protect the Parliament of Ghana, who should protect it for us? And I'm saying that if I make that mistake, and of course my leaders hold me before the Privileges Committee, maybe then it's a learning process for me. But when the minority leader, deputy minority leader, and other people in leadership conduct themselves in this way, then I have already advised myself that if there's anything to learn from them, I'll reconsider. Because this is not the way to behave as per the rules that we have as parliamentarians. In any case, what interest does the NPP have? To the extent that they will recall Parliament at great cost for a matter that we are all beginning to see as no agency in it. Because Jake sits here and says Andrea Rooney was blocked. By whom? When he's in the Court of Appeal? You are a lawyer. Until the Supreme Court, even the review panel of the Supreme Court sits on an issue and gives that finality, is anybody blocked from seeking redress? In any case, we are coming back on the 28th. Would anybody be able to determine this matter before the 28th? Even if Parliament decided to go and set up a committee. I mean, so clearly it was mischief on their part. It was a political game, a political loophole that they thought they had found.
This is a constitutional right they have. Then they have exercised
and then
what is wrong with exercising your constitutional right?
Interestingly, they come and say that if the Speaker didn't agree that the motion was valid, why did the Speaker didn't recall Parliament because of the motion? Go and read the article that asks Mr. Speaker to recall Parliament.
Tell me, why did he recall Parliament?
He said once 15% of parliamentarians have asked for a recall, the Speaker shall recall the House. So the Speaker's hands were tied in that matter. So
he does not have the discretion to determine prima facie if the issue
it doesn't give him
ought to be looked into.
He doesn't have that discretion.
I don't have that discretion.
And even as a lawyer in court, sometimes the person have to come to court for us to tell me that you have no capacity has been done in Andrew Awuni's case. So sincerely, you cannot fault the Speaker for recalling Parliament. But the motion itself, and I think that my colleague would have, if he had given him a chance, he would have gone on and on. The motion itself was dead at best. Because it is untrue that 15% of people signed the motion. I had the motion paper here.
We have it.
We have it.
There's something that has never been discussed. Listen,
in that case, the Speaker didn't do his job.
Please, no. I'm saying that, you see,
because they ought to have crossed that threshold,
and I'm saying that
before the Speaker would recall Parliament.
See, it was fraudulently done. If you look at the way, okay, he has the document. If you look at you have the microphone. So go ahead. Tell us. This is in support of the motion. Mm-hmm. But where are the signatories in support of the recall? So in other part, the Speaker himself said when we came that he looked at the totality of it. The only reason why he actually did not advert himself strictly to that rule was that many more than the 15% that recalled Parliament. So he wanted to see really what the issues were.
But I don't get it. Can you demonstrate the fraud that you're talking about in respect of the
Let me explain.
Okay, you let me. He wants to explain.
Now, Honorable Nitu sent a memo to the Speaker of Parliament, and the subject of the memo is request for recall of Parliament. Request for recall of Parliament, so that when Parliament is recalled, they will move a motion for the investigation of the Fortis transaction.
And he discloses that too, right?
Oh, it's here.
Right.
It's disclosed. I just don't want to bore you with reading everything.
That's okay.
Yes. Then, so the request for recall ends with a paragraph that says that we, the underlisted members of Parliament, hereby request that the Speaker of Parliament summons Parliament in accordance with Article 1123 of the 1992 Constitution for Parliament to investigate the offer and acquisition of Merchant Bank by Fortis Private blah, blah, blah. So we expect to see an attachment of the same document, which is also headed signatories in support of request for recall.
There's an
of
attachment.
Parliament.
What is that?
Okay. Now this is the attachment. The attachment says members in support of motion. Now you don't use motion to recall Parliament.
No.
You exercise your recall powers under Article 112.
Form of a substance.
Which is not. Oh, that is what the Speaker looked at. Is that okay? That is what the Speaker looked at. But you see,
point of information.
Yes.
You're saying that the move to recall Parliament was improperly done.
Yes. That's my position.
Then why did the Speaker grant it?
The Speaker said on the floor that, listen.
So before it came to the floor,
we'll tell you what it
came to the floor,
Speaker said he saw it. But, you see, you are making so much out of good morning in a press conference. When the press conference was read in the afternoon. You are making so much noise about good morning. We are saying that there's even a more grave mistake that was overlooked. If we insisted that there was some constitutional irregularity, then the Speaker may not have called. And it would have worsened the discussion.
Is it constitutional or procedural? And that is where I say form of a substance. Because if you're looking for the underlisted signatories, and you find a piece of paper,
signatories in support of recall.
In support of recall. But here it titles it in support of motion.
And yet in the substantive memo, there is reference to the request for the recall under Article 112. And there's also reference to the intent to move a motion when the recall is done. And the signatories are signatories in support of a motion.
Right.
Not in support of a recall.
You have also been a member of Parliament for a while.
You see,
yes.
Listen.
But I didn't quite finish.
Speaker did a great job by ignoring this and recalling Parliament, because if he had said that there is an irregularity, imagine, even though he brought them in, listened to them, and ruled in accordance with our standing orders, estimate previous decisions of former speakers. No, this was rehearsed. No. It's not about rehearsal. Let me finish. It's important. Look, we are lawyers. I mean, not all of us are. You are a lawyer. Please, when people bring a matter before you, as a lawyer, what do? You will go and consider the pros and cons. You will read around all the issues. You will prepare. You will have a long-term view of the matter. You know that he has to come by writ. He's come by writ. You know that he has a right to raise preliminary objections in the process. You know that there has to be a ruling on it. You know that he can travel up to the Supreme Court or Court of Appeal, depending on what preliminary objection was raised. But you know that ultimately, the courts will look at the substance of the case.
Thank you.
So you have a long-term view and you prepare.
Thank you.
It's not rehearsal.
Let me just correct something. Yeah. All this noise about Mr. Speaker being biased and things like that. Let me put it on record. And I pray that you go back and play the full session. Anybody who says that Mr. Speaker was biased or has conducted himself in a way that pointed to the fact that he was biased is a blatant liar. If you watch the proceedings, we on our side were even very jittery because Mr. Speaker had asked the deputy minority leader to move the motion. In actual fact, he started moving the motion. Then the majority leaders tried to stop him. Mr. Speaker overruled him in the first instance. Then the majority leader rose again. It was until the majority leader pointed to the facts, to I think Article 90, Order 93 or
93.1.
Yeah, 93.1. And pointed to him that, look, this matter was before court. And indeed, that the matter was, part of it was even on appeal. And then the Deputy Attorney General also got up and cited copious authorities from other jurisdictions to buttress the point that looking at all these things, it will be unfair for the motion to be moved. And then even to make it more interesting, listen to the Speaker's own ruling. People have refused to listen to that ruling. They've gone on and on and on. The Speaker said that what? The Speaker said that what? He said in 6 days, the matter in the Court of Appeal would have been settled, and therefore a date would have been given for the appeal to be heard. So looking at looking at how close it is, it was unnecessary for Parliament, to take over the judicial functions.
Okay.
So in real terms,
let me bring you here
we must understand these things
briefly as we wind up on this subject matter. So we go to the 1 year of John Mahama's administration. What do you say? What your colleagues are talking about in respect of the procedure and everything else?
Jake said that the whole thing is just smoke and mirrors. And listening to Ayariga and my friend over there, it's so clear to me that what we're doing is just drama to hide the substantive issues.
I said, let's discuss the substantive issue. You say you want to discuss the procedural matters.
Can I finish? Ayariga is saying that the merchant bank is a private limited liability subjected to company regulations and company code.
Yeah. The laws of Ghana.
It is on record that the president of Ghana sat in meetings over the affairs of Merchant Bank, a private company. It is on record that not just one meeting, several meetings. Now we are being told that the company is a private company. And yet the president of Ghana summons meetings to talk about the affairs of a private company. We are being told that the matter is in courts. And in Parliament, when you tell them that, but there have been issues that have been in courts, and yet Parliament dealt with those. You say, oh, Parliament's core responsibility. Parliament's core responsibility is oversight of the public purse. Anything that deals with the use of public funds, Parliament has an oversight responsibility, including the use of public money in Merchant Bank.
But it has to do so through due process.
Exactly. And that is what Parliament sought to do. We were told that the matter is in court. As we sit here, what are we doing? We're talking about the issues of Merchant Bank and the sale.
Democracy.
Now we can sit here, the Minister for Information can sit here and talk about those issues. The Parliament of Ghana, the people's representative, cannot talk about them. The Christian Council issued a statement. There's a section on Merchant Bank, paragraph 53, that government and Senate provide adequate information on what made selling a public asset like Merchant Bank a better deal for Ghanaians. Paragraph 54. That government and Senate... What I say? No. My point is that, like Jake said, disclosure. There's obviously an issue. Please.
No, you see, they say adequate.
Yes.
So maybe they are aware of what information.
And you are a minister for information, and you are not happy that people are demanding information.
I said, let's discuss the information here. You say you want to discuss the theatrics of politics.
He says that
someone can discuss the information.
they should demand the information, but they should do so through laid down procedure.
You see, and this is Christian Council, not some political party. They say government and Senate shares with the public. Yeah, but if they are wrong,
they can be wrong.
Give the information. When the issue comes to Parliament, Parliament is also responding.
Hold on.
If I start issuing statements,
please allow
if I start issuing these statements, if I start issuing statements,
this is how you do it. This is how you do it. If you are on the floor and he interjects in this manner, you won't enjoy it. Please allow him.
You see, I kept absolute silence. So he's squeezing my knees. You see, so, and I'm saying this is Christian Council. This is an official statement. That government shares with the public what made the Fortis deal better than the others. that government explains to Ghanaians why it decided to go ahead to sell Merchant Bank to Fortis, despite the controversies and the public outcry that came with it. Look, you can't deny there's public outcry. You cannot deny it. You can't deny there is a controversy about it. The members of the board of Merchant Bank expressed disquiet. Some of them resigned. There have been issues raised about the people who are coming to buy the bank. We've been told some of them have been said to be cronies of the NDC. It is not fair to them. Yeah, that's also in the public domain. That their background is that they are affiliated to the NDC. It's not fair to them. But that is why it is important that we discuss the issues so that these rumors do not gain ground. And when Parliament wants to discuss the issues, seeking information, you say Parliament cannot seek information.
When they say 2,500,
no,
is a rumor.
Please, you are saying that Parliament cannot seek information because the matters are in court. But there's a public outcry. Okay. I just think that the Christian Council.
Yes,
I don't
Christian
want to,
Council that you support.
Parliament
support the call they are making.
Yes.
The question I'm asking you is that. Please allow me to do my show. Are you suggesting they're pointing out to you that the Christian Council can be wrong and completely wrong, misled also, that Merchant Bank made this publication. This publication itemizes the processes one by one. Is it your position that if Christian Council were aware of that statement, they would have asked for what they are asking for, or that they are aware of this but they think it's not sufficient?
Obviously. If they are asking for more information, then they think that what is available is not sufficient.
You may find that members of the Christian Council may have some information, private information, that leads them to be able to think that a more public disclosure will be beneficial to all those who they lead.
Absolutely.
What is more public? I've just had one of the texts I've just had just now saying from somebody I don't know who, just saying that we are not happy. Okay, I'm a contributor to SNIT and we are not happy. Contributors to SNIT are not happy. And at the end of the day, you are looking after the people's money.
But you can't say categorically, absolutely, that contributors to SNIT are not happy. Some may not be happy.
Yes, many are not happy. I don't know how many, but many are not happy. And so long as some enough of them are not happy, and that would seem to be the case in this matter, because of the amount of brouhaha that continues to do that, okay, then I think it's really worthwhile in terms of good governance. To actually go ahead and then really open the...
Gentlemen, I'm sorry, but we have to take a break here.
On the issue of disclosure.
We have to take a break here. When we return, I'll take just 2 minutes each of all of you, and we'll stick to the 2 minutes. 2 minutes each from all of you to finish with this particular discussion. Well, don't forget that this show is brought to you by the kind sponsorship of Erata Motors, and they have on display brand new and slightly used vehicles, Mercedes-Benz, Toyota, Infiniti, Range Rover, you name them. And they have very good deals for you. So just call Erata Motors 0244 445 268 or 0277 486 800. You can locate them at Lagos Avenue, opposite Body Talk, near the GT Bank. That's East Legon. Erata Motors, that's the best vehicles at the best prices. And MTN wants you to know that its Heroes of Change promotion is still on across the length and breadth of Ghana. More and more people are engaging in selfless acts that are brightening lives and making the world a better place to live. These agents of change, they are our heroes, and you need to get them properly recognized for their selfless acts in their community. And so MTN is asking you to nominate your hero to be part of the MTN Heroes of Change. Visit mtn.ghana, mtn.com.gh for details, or pick up nomination forms from any MTN service center near you. Fill it and submit it at the MTN Service Center. You can also write a letter of not more than 2 pages nominating your hero and stating why your nominee deserves to be recognized as the MTN Hero of Change, and send it to MTN Heroes of Change, P.O. Box 80-179, Achimota, Accra. So go on, spot and nominate your Hero of Change today. The deadline for submission it's been opened, it's still on, so please go ahead and enjoy it. MTN everywhere you go. And Star Assurance, they are very proud and happy that you made them the CIMG award winner of 2012, and their dedicated team is continuing to offer you cutting-edge insurance policies that give you peace of mind and power to achieve your set goals. So they are going to work to protect your properties and businesses when the unexpected happens. They have branches all over the country, and they invite you to contact them on 0302-240-632 or visit them at starassurance.com. Star Assurance, that's your CIMG insurance company of the year 2012, and they are your solid partner. The show is also brought to you by the candid sponsorship of Lipton Tea, inspiration flowing from nature. We'll be right back. You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. We're coming to you live from the Multi-TV studios. This is your Joy News channel, and I'm Samson Ladi. And my guest in the studio, Jake Otanka Obeche Belamte. He's chairman of the New Patriotic Party seeking re-election. George Law is lawyer MP for North Dye. Mahama Yariga is an MP, and also he is the Information and Media Relations Minister. Nana Akomia is former Communications Director of the New Patriotic Party. Are you going for any of the offices?
No, once my chairman is there, I'm okay.
That's the position you'd have gone for?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Once
now let's go
there,
to the phone lines. I have John Indebugri, he's a lawyer and former MP for Zebila. He has some very critical matters on the Fortis deal. Mr. Indebugri, thank you very much for joining us on Newsfile.
It's a pleasure.
Great. What's your take on the outcome of the motion in Parliament in respect of the Fortis deal?
Well, my take is one of disappointment, both in the majority and in the minority.
How?
How? Because I was personally involved in a similar case, and the media covered it briefly, in which I am seeking an interpretation of Article 268 or so of the Constitution, dealing with agreements relating to the natural resources. I mean, agreements relating to transfer of natural resources, specifically an oil block.
Mm.
Now, I filed my writ at the Supreme Court, seeking to invoke the original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court to interpret the conduct, that article in relation to the conduct of the minister. In November last year, because of the election petition, I think that those cases of that nature delayed. After that, I picked up the matter again. Now, while this case was pending, I had information that the block in question was about to be given out to another company. So I forced my lawyer to file an application at the Supreme Court, praying for an order of interlocutory injunction restraining the Minister of Energy from laying the new agreement before Parliament. I had further information that notwithstanding, and I made sure that the clerk to Parliament was served with a copy of my application. Now, when the matter was put on the order paper, I had the hint and I got the other paper, satisfied myself that it was actually about to be, that agreement was about to be laid. I went to Parliament myself, personally, and met the clerk and raised issue about the idea of the minister going ahead and laying the agreement when my application was pending. I sought audience with the majority leader. I would say that he refused to meet me. I went away 2 days or so later. The minister, in defiance of the Supreme Court, because the application was pending, the Attorney General was aware. I had gone personally to the clerk to Parliament and raised issue, and yet the minister ignored all that and laid the agreement in Parliament without a whimper from anybody. After that, processes connected with the agreement were hurried through, and the block has been given to another person. Why, in fact, my action is still pending in the Supreme Court? In the event that the Supreme Court, upholds my position, what happens? It just creates confusion. So and when the motion was about to be, the report of the Committee on Energy was about to be discussed or debated in Parliament, I was expecting the minority, members of who were aware of this pending action, to raise this matter that it has been raised in this 40s business. There was no whimper. And so there was agreement between the majority and the minority to ignore the tendency of this action, and they proceeded. So I don't know whether it is a principle that we are defending, or we look at the colors of the people, the height, I don't know. Because that standing or the mandate.
When you say there was agreement between the majority and the minority to ignore your processes in court, are you saying that on the basis of facts, or that's just a presumption?
I have told you that I know some minority members, very powerful minority members, who were very much aware of the tendency of this action and did not raise any issue at all when the report of the Energy Committee was laid and was called for debate. And I'm saying that I personally went to Parliament to try to draw the attention of the majority leader, who was not very enthusiastic about meeting me. So even if they didn't meet to decide, they were ad idem that this matter must be ignored, let's proceed. And this matter was very specific because the decision they took would definitely prejudice my interest in the case.
Mm-hmm. Well, but what do you say to what the speaker
is talking about?
What do you say to what the speaker says? That even after the Parliament has done its business, you are still in court. In the end, the court may make its orders, and you will still be able to enjoy the fruits of your judgment if you are victorious, isn't it?
Well, I am saying that third-party interest would have accrued. In other words, this other new company that has been given the block would have acquired certain interest. This is what leads to this business of, judgment debts and so on.
But this is also the situation where you get compensated in damages, isn't that so?
Pardon me?
I say that this is also the situation where you also get compensated in damages.
How am I going to get compensated in damages when I am trying to protect the Constitution? I have no personal interest in the matter. I am saying that when Parliament has ratified an agreement of that nature, a minister cannot exercise his ministerial powers to set aside that agreement. I am trying to uphold the Constitution. How am I going to be compensated in damages when you have breached the Constitution?
You said you said that in this matter of the Merchant Bank motion that was taken to the House, you are disappointed in both the majority and the minority. But from what you are saying, isn't it obvious that you support the minority's position, that it ought to have been stopped?
No, I support the minority's position that it ought to have been stopped. But I don't support it because they are not consistent as far as principle is concerned.
No.
Why is it that in my case they ignored it? In this particular case, they are defending it.
Let me be clear on this. In this case, then it is obvious that your support is to the majority's position.
No. Yes. In this particular case, my support is for the majority because I think that when the matter is pending in court, in order not to even create conflict among the three arms of state, Parliament should refrain from dealing with the matter. And
so wherein lies your disappointment?
Pardon me?
Wherein lies your disappointment with the majority?
My disappointment is that in a similar case, they ignored, standing order 93, and went ahead and took action on the matter.
Okay.
There is no consistency.
All right.
Words, this Parliament decides as and when they decide, they don't really stick to the principle. This is the basis of my disappointment.
All right.
Beyond that, I don't want to get involved in all this quickly.
Thank you very much. John Ndebugri is a lawyer and a former MP for Zebila. Obviously, he had an issue and he wanted to project that onto the Fortis situation and bring to the attention of the country that the two sides are not consistent when it comes to this particular matter. Now, gentlemen, strictly 2 minutes, your very final, submissions on the matter. And I start with you, George. So, as far as you're concerned, this is end of the road. We should only look up to the courts.
Well, I think that is the way we have devised for ourselves as a country. I think that when you have an issue and the issue is in court, if you don't like or if you want to be part of that, you go and join. That is why the issue of joiner is available. People can decide to go and organize press conferences and do all that they so wish. We are in a democratic era, so people can have their concerns. One of the things I want to point out is that I am also very worried that on the floor of Parliament, senior members are showing newspapers who are commenting on the issue whilst it's in court and expect Parliament to take a cue from that. And I think that we are really role models for the people in a democratic era. And I think that Parliament should do the right thing. And I'm happy that Mr. Speaker has clearly set out the rules as to the separation of powers, that we should allow the judiciary to do judicial work, we should allow Parliament to do their legislative work, and we should allow executive to do their executive functions. So really, right. I think that what happened in Parliament was proper. The Speaker's ruling is final. Anybody who disagrees with it can come by substantive motion when Parliament, reconvenes.
Okay. And that Thank you very much, George Lowe. And Mr. Obiche-Bilante, like he says, Parliament they are role models. I'm not too sure if the majority of the Ghanaians will agree that they are living up to that. But how do you want them to deal with the issue in Parliament if it has to be, pursued in the manner that he's saying?
They are but one group. Okay. SNIT belongs to more than just parliamentarians. More than just parliamentarians have their money in SNIT. I think we should move away from all these smokes and mirrors. I'm so glad that George brought this thing, because we have here, amongst the 5 of us sitting, 3 lawyers and 3 current and former ministers of information. Every one of us know that you can actually obscure more by writing something than you reveal. That is, when you do the revelation, it is then the questioning of that revelation that reveals what the real truth is. I'm told from this one that KPMG were the transaction advisors. Okay, I mean, probably you may actually want to, if you had a chance to question that, to find out whether they really thought of themselves as the transaction advisors or just the advising on the capital adequacy ratio. There's a number of different things that anybody who is truly familiar would be able to actually question and say that this actually obscures more than it really reveals. And that's why I think the contributors of SNIT, which at the end of the day are the people, the workers of Ghana, deserve to have a better explanation made about how their money is being looked after. When you read this and you see that major reason is because Merchant Bank now undertakes to go and look for the bad loans, whereas Rand said that you want you who guaranteed those bad loans, you go and find the people who paid for it, because they were not interested in looking for politically protected bad loans and chasing politically protected bad loans. Therefore, the Fortis, who are, as you know, are reputed, I don't know the ownership of Fortis, but are reputed to have members who are part and parcel of those bad loans as part of it, then you know that money, okay, is going to be lost. It's going to be lost to the people of this country. So all these more is obscured than is revealed.
Right. So Jake's prayer certainly will be that the Court of Appeal will look favorably on what is before it now, and so there will be room to question what exactly KPMG did in that respect. Now, Mahama Yarga, you insist that we ought to go through this process through the company's law route. The court gave a hint when it dismissed the capacity of Andrea Wuni in that respect. Apart from that, you don't think that the minority should worry itself again? Even including Labour, some members or groups are still saying that they intend to take this matter up.
First and foremost, I want us to be, I'm withdrawing that word, I will not say that. But, you see, this is a transaction that has been publicly explained by the parties involved. What he's holding there is a comprehensive explanation, an account of every step that took place in the transaction, the parties involved, monetary values involved, an evaluation of relative offers, the offers of Rand Bank, the offers of Snit Bank, and a conclusion, all that publicly presented by Snit, major shareholders in Merchant Bank.
Are you against interrogating that particular process that you talk about? Is it above board?
I'm coming. He tells us that by even putting it out there obscure more, what else should they do? Listen carefully.
That's why it has to be
Merchant Bank, between 2002...
You're reminded you are done 1 minute.
Merchant Bank, between 2002 and 2008, its loan portfolio grew from a little over 34 million to over 300 million Ghana cedis. Between 2002 to 2008, that was under the NPP, when he was then a minister and now is the chairman of the party. When you talk about politically protected people, I mean, that is accounting for the current state of the bank.
I see.
Let me tell you,
right.
we can have a discussion about ENP and what they owe. But ENP owes just about 16%. I have the list here.
The bank says that is 50% of its non-performing assets.
No. It's
Sorry.
not. It's not. It's
Sorry.
16%.
Sorry.
And I'm telling you that I have the list of all those who owe.
Okay.
And look at it. This is the list.
Yeah, Mr.
From
Aga,
37 million
I'm sorry, but
to close to 300
I'm sorry,
million.
but on this occasion, you stop here.
No.
Nana Kumia, let's hear you 2 minutes. Strictly.
Ayariga is challenging statements put out by Merchant Bank, but he doesn't want the statements put out by Snit to be interrogated. Now, my brother, Mr. George Lowe, running down the minority leader and people that he says he respects because he believes that they have used unkind words on the speaker. And then he also goes ahead to call people blatant liars. If you're looking for equity, please make sure your hands are clean. Now, something. What are we talking about? We are talking about the Merchant Bank going into distress because of toxic loans. That's what we are talking about. The person who owes the biggest part of those toxic loans happens to be a relation of the president. So under ordinary circumstances, the dealing with that bank and the loan should be done in a manner that will be totally above board because of the cause of the distress and the relationship of the biggest debtor to the president. In the event, there were so many questions raised about the deal. Value for money issues have been raised. The track record of the Fortis have been raised. the approval process, that the licensing requirements were not satisfied. Board members of Merchant Bank have protested. About 4 or 5 of them have resigned. We also have documents that indicate that the president also got himself involved in the affairs of Merchant Bank and so forth. So it raises huge controversies, matters of governance. And these issues are being raised by civil society. You have the Christian Council, you have the TUC, you have political parties raising these issues. It is in the interest of government itself that these matters are discussed and interrogated fully.
All right, thank you very much.
Otherwise, they will not go away, and it will be a mark against the government when it comes to the governance.
Thank you very much. And the minority intends to continue to Shraj and other places?
Well, let's see.
They should just come to me. They should just come to me.
Thank you. Thank you.
All the information.
Thank you very much.
But you said you won't discuss
now,
it.
gentlemen.
Now, gentlemen.
You won't discuss it on the floor of Parliament. You should come to the office.
Hello, gentlemen. Thank you very much indeed. Now, let's move on. Let's move on to examine the responsible, accountable, and transparent 1-year administration of John Dramani Mahama. Well, his critics say it is the opposite. We want to look at it from the perspectives of various, strands of the economy. And gentlemen, I would like you to be brief in dealing with these matters. Just go for the jugular when you are discussing all of these matters. Now, the president met with a journalist and responded to a number of questions. I'm going to play back some of that to you. And then when we are done, first of all, maybe we should take it one after the other. Let's hear the president, firstly, on one of the issues regarding corruption.
People don't go on leave for quite devious reasons. They are sitting on something, they don't want to get off. So that if somebody comes and sits on, we'll see some things that exist. So even for good governance and accountability reasons, people must take leave and others must act for them for the period they are away so that we have transparency and accountability. We're going to start with the first.
All right. Tied to that issue we will discuss, tied to the issue of corruption, will be what's his purported role in the EMP debt to Merchant Bank. Listen to how the president reacted to that issue.
The president called a meeting which I attended to discuss the distress in which Merchant Bank was. And one of the debtors to Merchant Bank was Engineers and Planners. Engineers and Planners happens to be owned by my younger brother Ibrahim. And so I sat in that meeting, and I must say that out of that meeting, no intervention was made to direct Merchant Bank to do anything. I can say that confidently. No intervention was made. At no time have I used executive power to try and influence Merchant Bank to do anything. After all, I became president in July. I could have influenced it, I could have dismissed the Merchant Bank board, I could have done things using executive power. I didn't do that. And so I have not played any role that conflicts in interest, that has conflict of interest. I have let the bank do what it wants. I think SNIT is an autonomous entity. It must take its own decisions.
Right, thank you very much. And that's been President John Dramani Mahama. Now, I'll start with you, Mahama Yarga. On the issues of corruption, I was at the first forum that was organized to observe the 1-year anniversary, and I had people like the Foreign Affairs Minister, Hannah Tete, say that it is not the case that it is rather or only in the Mahama administration that you have a lot of corruption. But it is rather the case that it is in Mahama's administration that you have allowed a lot of sunshine on these matters. So people are now getting to know them. So this is transparency. And so the government rather ought to be applauded for not, disallowing some of these things to be sort of allowing them to be done in the dark, rather allowing everybody to know what is going on?
Well, thank you very much. This government is totally against corruption. And the president has not minced words. And the last time he described corruption as
mass murder,
because we appreciate how many lives are lost because of corruption. When you siphon state funds from legitimate purposes to personal coffers and deprive hospitals of medicines, deprive institutions of resources for them to exercise the critical roles of a life-saving nature, you are indirectly, through your corrupt act, causing murder. And we understand that. But then also, we believe that we need to understand the nature of corruption in our system, how it happens, so that we can adopt a dual-pronged approach, which is, one, tighten systems that disenable corruption, and two, still follow up with punitive measures consistent with due process in accordance with the rule of law. That is how we have approached the issue. But at the same time also, continue to encourage a public discussion that enables people to understand what is corruption, what is mismanagement, is that okay? What is inefficiency? Because sometimes when I listen to people discussing corruption, I have a sense that they are describing inefficiency that has led to waste. When I hear people discussing corruption, I have a sense that they are discussing mismanagement, which is a function of low capacity, incompetence, and poor judgment, and etc. So it is important for people to understand what is corruption and the difference between that and mismanagement and incompetence and all these other things that are equally matters that must be remedied in our governance system and our body politic. So she's right. If you look at the things that have fueled public discussion of corruption, one has been judgment debts.
Right.
Is that okay? When judgment debts occurred, first one, and the issues came up when the former Attorney General who resigned, Auntie Betty Mould, who was my boss, resigned. It could have ended there. I mean, once remedial measures in relation to those specific cases were addressed. But the president thought, no, wait. There are several revelations about judgment debts. And if you look at the quantum, to deal with it, we need to really understand the character of this monster. And that was when he set up the commission to investigate. It is through the investigation of the commission that more has been revealed regarding practices that end up creating judgment debts that burden the state coffers. And because this is telecast on television on a daily basis, and every day new issues come up, the media then pick it up, and the following morning is discussed on radio, and consistently the subject matter is in the front burner of public discourse. The way to deal with corruption sometimes is just sunlight. Bring it up. Let it be discussed. Let the public and public officers begin to appreciate how abhorrent, in the opinion of the public, this is, so that they themselves can begin to exercise self-restraint even before you start applying the whip. That has been it. If you look at JIDA, a staff of this station brought up the issue. Government quickly instituted an inquiry to find out what really happened. Because clearly, if you look at the case of JIDA, and I'm happy that he is here, and he is also here, under the NPP, at the time when, globally we're beginning to have a youth crisis as a result of unemployment, and every country was grappling for an opportunity to keep the youth engaged and give them hope, the NPP government came up with an idea to create a national youth employment program. The idea was, don't keep them idling when they finish school and are trying to get to the next stage. Get them gainfully employed, but an employment that is also a training program that occupies them until they move to the next opportunity. But let it come with some incentives. That's what the youth employment was all about. We came, we scaled it up, and etc. When they started, ideally, there should have been a legislation creating the institution, setting out its governance structures, building its capacity to monitor the use of the resources, both by the staff themselves, and later on an innovation came up where they tried to exploit the efficiency of the private sector by outsourcing the rendering of the service to private companies without the capacity to even monitor those private companies. There should have been institution building to ensure that there was capacity to manage this kind of innovation. That didn't happen. No institution building, no legislative framework. A lot of things happened.
Yet within that period, it was not heard or it's not been found out that those who managed it, took money or mismanaged it.
No. The investigation subsequently revealed the practices. The
within
maladministration.
Within which period? That's what I'm saying.
Oh, the investigation from the records that we have, is that okay? There were records that covered the period when NDC was in office. Is that okay? Now, I don't want to get into the details of and how come that the MPP records are not there and why didn't we do that and etc. The idea is not to witch hunt, not to engage in blame game and say, but it wasn't just NDC period, it was also MPP period. No, that's not the idea. The idea is to understand what happened so that when you are crafting remedial measures, you know what to craft to deal with the problem.
I raised that question to suggest that it may be irrelevant to take us back to all of that history.
No, it is important. No, it is important because what I indicated, what is our approach to dealing with corruption, just as the president indicated during the press conference, that we are looking at it as a systems problem.
Right.
And so what you have to do is to work on the systems, tighten the systems, make it difficult for people to be corrupt just because of the obstacles that are in their way. And then, of course, ensure that there are punitive measures when they do engage in acts of corruption. So beyond looking at it as a systems problem and working on the system, which this president has been doing, the second thing is he's actually taking concrete steps to address cases of corruption. He's giving instructions to the Attorney General to prosecute. He's directed the Attorney General to take Auditor General's reports and take aspects of the report that are of a criminal nature, not where there is some administrative lapse, but clear criminal conduct, and prosecute even before Parliament considers and takes remedial measures. In the SADA case, in the JIDA case, clear directives have been given. Yoko has been seized with jurisdiction. Parties have been involved. Investigations are ongoing. Indeed, Attorney General has given indication of intention to prosecute. Where there were arrangements to give money to service providers, President has directed that retrieve those monies. And Attorney General has stated that indeed they have met with the parties involved and put in place mechanisms for the retrieval of the money. All these are happening. In relation to public officers, the President has given several directives, has put out a code of ethics code of ethics to guard the conduct of ministers of state and public officers who are appointed by the President. Beyond that, we have taken provisions of our Constitution and part of the Code of Ethics and put them in a bill which we have presented to Parliament, which is to regulate the conduct of public officers. All these are in addition to the practice of exposing and having the matters discussed, which shames the parties involved, which acts as a restraint, which educates the public. And so I think that we are on course. People may disagree with the approach of the president, but I think that it is an excellent approach that deals with both systems and remedial measures, and I think that we should allow that
his critics
to continue for a while.
His critics say where he's failed in this regard, in that Iyoko has investigated, the CID, they've done their job. Those who will be prosecuted will be prosecuted. But they are saying that those who were in the forefront of designing these lopsided, unconscionable contracts, some of them are in government today. You can take an administrative measure, punitive, to send a signal that you will not condone such things. So that is what is the expectation, that something he has not, done, which makes his commitment or his pronounced commitment a bit of suspect.
It's an ongoing process. It's an ongoing process. And I think that we should allow the process to run and see whether at a certain stage, if the system comes to a conclusion that the conduct of those public officers amount to deliberate acts of mismanagement or criminal conduct of waste of public funds.
You have already made those conclusions by asking for refund of the monies.
No. To ask for the refund of the money, it's not to impute criminality. You see, you engage private service providers. Part of the reason why you're asking them to refund is that you are no longer interested in proceeding with these engagements. Is that okay?
All right.
And so you're asking them, well, we're no longer interested, so refund the money.
Okay.
I think that when Yoko comes to a conclusion regarding any of those people, they will do the right thing.
Okay. Thank you.
And the Attorney General will also
on.
prosecute
right.
people that
let's hear
are culpable.
on that. Nanakomia, what's your take that this is a president who is shown sufficient commitment through the laws that he is putting in place and allowing the systems to work? What do you want to see to show that he's really fighting corruption?
I know the president a little bit. I don't think the president himself believes that he's done the best as far as fighting corruption. I don't believe so. He said one minister was talking about sunshine, that the corruption cases seem to be coming up now because the government is throwing light on them. That's a blatant falsehood. I mean, the cases that have come up, the judgment debts, they were not disclosed by the government. They were disclosed in the Auditor General's report and taken up by members of parliament.
Is the government that instituted the commission? That instituted the commission that's allowing more of those revelations to come out.
No, I'm saying that.
It's the government that allowed investigations into JIDA that brought up the final, stuff about what is going on.
The disclosures of these matters were not a result of the government's willingness to throw light on them. That's my point. And that the judgment debts were a result of the Auditor General's reports that were taken up by members of parliament and other members of the public. JIDA was taken up by your station, one or two investigative journalists. They took it up. Even Merchant Bank, they wouldn't have parliament discuss it. So how do you, in this situation, say that you are throwing light on the matters? What light are you throwing on the matters? Now, it is not even about the incidence of corruption. It's about what action you take. That is what affects the incidence of corruption. What actions are being taken?
What actions do you want?
My brother, you take Wyoming, where about over $30 million of public money was paid to an individual. The government itself has come out to say that those monies that we paid to the individual, they were wrongly paid. And so the government has gone to court to seek the court's order to retrieve the monies. Now, what has the government done to those government's own officials who sprung the payments, these wrongful payments? What has been done? Nothing. You take the matter of Waterville. The Supreme Court has ruled that those payments were a result of collusion and connivance. What has been done beyond collecting the money back, as the Supreme Court has ordered? What has been done to those officials who, through letters and authorizations, sprung the payments to Waterville? And you're talking of millions and millions of dollars. Take JIDA. We are being told that
the proper perspective in respect of the judgment debts that you are referring to at the Supreme Court is that there was no parliamentary approval.
Precisely. There was no parliamentary approval.
Can I go?
It is correct that, that a judge made a comment about a sort of enterprise, that a brigade that had been set up, that has set up an enterprise to create loot and share.
Merchant Bank, is that corruption?
Can I go on?
Go on.
Merchant Bank, is that corruption?
Please. Now, we have a judgment that is ordering refunds to be made. The judgment is saying that there's a deliberate attempt to create, to loot and share. You are not even embarrassed about this, that your conduct can receive such comment from the Supreme Court of Ghana. That is an effort, it's a deliberate effort to create, to loot and to share. That's what the Supreme Court said. And you haven't made any attempt to take the money back. Those people who colluded and connived in this looting and sharing, what has happened to any of them?
Okay. Now, just a few, this will be about the third time that I'm having to pull up this on this platform. When you say no attempt has been made to recover the monies as ordered by the Supreme Court, that is not factual, because they have filed writs in the High Court seeking to take them back. There is one that was filed in July, there's one that was filed on the 30th of July, and there was one that was filed on the 22nd of August to retrieve those from Isophoton and Wyoming.
Okay. You know the Wyoming case? It's been 2 years in the courts. The court fined the government 500 cedis because they were not showing enough effort. The next day, the government was in court to challenge that 500 cedis. Mr. Wyoming himself has had occasion to tell the government, why are you wasting my time? There are witnesses if you want witnesses. These are witnesses, go and call them. The man himself who's being accused. You see, members of the government have said that the government is not showing enough commitment. And I don't want to mention their names, but we all know them. That they don't believe that the government is showing the same commitment that he used to pay the judgment.
You are referring to Matanamidu and Bagbin.
So it's not just me, even Tony Edu. It's not just me. People do not have faith in the commitment of the government. That's the bottom line. It took Jida. A guy is telling us no records of the NPP's time. You see, a lot of these cases of malfeasance that have come out in Jida is because of the service contracts. In the NPP time, we didn't have these service contracts. One or two of them. One or two of them. In the NDC period, they have over 20 of these service contracts. So you could see clearly that the service contracts were being used as an avenue to siphon money. If you look at the terms of those contracts, it's amazing. You see? So it's not a matter of records. And what do you mean records?
Your accusation is that the government as a collective?
We are being told that there were no records. What records? The radio station, your radio station, they had the records during the NPP time. The government says it hasn't got. Who gave the records to your radio station? So that cannot be true.
From the offices.
And you see, it is not about legislative framework or systems like Ayariga is trying to tell us.
That is the most important to start with.
It is not true. Let me show you why. My brother, there are laws in this country regulating the use of public money. Are there not? Ayariga was in Parliament when those laws were being passed. Regulating the use of public money. You cannot say, oh, I've been said my office has not been legislated in Parliament, so you can use public money the way you want. That's a defeatist attitude. And that's the attitude that the government is taking. You can't understand it. It's not a matter of systems. It's a matter of people going against the laws and not being punished. That's the bottom line. There's a huge disquiet about the government's record as far as fighting corruption is concerned. The government has to be humble, accept them, and strive to work harder. Because the public confidence in the government's ability to fight corruption is very low. They should do a survey. A lot of the surveys that are coming up, the anti-corruption index, the Bafro barometer, the comments by civil society, there's a loss of confidence. You talked about the merchant bank thing. Let me conclude with that. I believe the president was not as candid as he could have been.
No, we'll deal with that separately. Just hold on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we'll deal with that separately. Let me come to you, Jake. What exactly did you expect of the president in respect of the fight against corruption to be convinced that he was committed to the fight?
Well, you know, if it's not smoke and mirrors, then all it is just PR exercises. The president sits there, listens, talks, and nothing happens. He told us in the excerpt that you played that he has the power to fire or appoint new members of the board at Merchant Bank. He went to sit in the meeting with the board of directors of Merchant Bank, okay, at which they discussed indebtedness to Merchant Bank. And according to what we're hearing is that, according to him, there was no intervention by him to direct the Merchant Bank to do anything. Why not? You are there. Why have you come there at all? Okay, you are the vice president. The president has asked you to go and sit there because public money is at issue. I would have thought the first thing, or the thing you would have said before you left that meeting was go and get the monies that are owed to this bank. They belong to the people of Ghana. I will be back here a month from now to find out how much of it you have been able to collect. If the Merchant Bank is now being sold to Fortis because Fortis have the capacity to go and collect the debt, why could not the board of directors of Merchant Bank be directed to go and collect the monies that were owed? Why do you leave that meeting and say there was no intervention to do anything? Then what were you there for?
It's important to...
Please, I never interrupted you. I sit here very quietly.
Just hold on.
Note
it. I'll let you deal with it in the most effective manner you want to. So hold on.
Corruption is not new to this government. It's not new in this time. Corruption, according as we know, has been with humankind for since we started walking or whatever. Okay, corruption has bedeviled almost every government. How do you deal with corruption? In Kufuor's time, one of the things that he did, which I applauded and I was fully part of, was that he started to create institutions that would limit the amount of corruption that could take place. A critical one was the Public Procurement Act, where you were supposed to do certain things if you were going to spend government money. The records are there. We should start interrogating them. Since this government came in, how many times have the Public Procurement Act been just set aside and contracts being issued without recourse to proper practices?
When you get to know, for example, that in the 1 year administration of the John Mahama, there's not be a single sole sourcing. How do you feel when you hear that?
In the 1 year administration of John Mahama, according to over 70% of the monies coming to government has had to go into servicing salaries and things like this. So there's not been that much money to do very much. If things had been happening, we would all of us be aware that things were really moving in this country. Things are not moving because things are not happening because the monies are not there. So I would not be surprised. How many actual contracts have been going forward? How many contracts have been brought to Parliament for Parliament to say, yes, go ahead with this and whatever? I would think if you go into it, you will find that the business has been going down, even the business of government, even the government activities in that area. Okay, the minister is here. Actually, there's something that we haven't heard about for some time. Mr. Minister, I haven't kept up, so it's not something I've sort of said I'm going to keep my gimlet eye on. But have all the ministerial appointees now declared their assets? Have you put that out, that they've all declared their assets? This is something that you can do. It's a very simple matter to let everybody know that they
were giving deadlines to do so.
Yeah, so let us know that they've all.
That would have been okay.
Now,
right.
Another one that we could have done is, as Honorable Nana Kumia has been doing, it's a number of these things to prosecute. You don't have to say that because you're now going to do a long-term look at this, you're not going to take any short-term measures. Criminal activities have been involved. Criminal activities are prosecuted, I believe, the lawyers are here, by the police. Why have we not involved the police in dealing with a number of these criminal things that have gone on? Wouldn't that be a sign to us that definitely we've empowered the police now to go in and prosecute people who they find guilty, they find have transgressed the laws? There's certain things that need to happen for us to know that they are happening, and we're not just being subjected to words and then to smoke and then to mirrors and to a whole lot of PR activities to mollify us and to try and redirect our gaze from what is really going on.
I'll take George's views on this, but let me read a few text messages here. And this is an officer, a former officer of the NYEP. That is when it was called NYEP under Kufuor's administration. And now a deputy information minister. He says, Nana Kumia, you signed NYEP appointment letters sending beneficiaries to teach in private schools, which is illegal. Again, you signed letters as late as January 2009. Then another gentleman wants to know if Mr. Yerga can explain, if you can explain the government's definition of corruption. And he's saying, if you can name it, you cannot fight it. What is happening? Mohammed Abbas Haruna writes, in as much as Ghanaians are interested in the sale of Merchant Bank to Fortis, I also think the minority is being mischievous. This is a national issue, and I believe we should approach it in a non-partisan way, but the minority is trying to incite the public against the majority and the government. Ibrahim Kopa, sent from Tamale, says the majority decision in Parliament, the majority decision that was taken in Parliament regarding the Merchant Bank saga is an indication that Parliament is ready to help in controlling corruption in our dear country without considering any political orientation. There is a long-time consequential effect to the whole Merchant Bank saga as far as change of political regime is concerned. Ernest in Taifa writes, I once said that the Merchant Bank issue would be treated basar, and truly is manifesting. Ghanaians, shine your eyes before it's too late. Merchant Bank, abre, Ghana for so abre. Park, Ganiu, sends this one from Saviligo and says, anybody who thinks that Senate contributors have been shortchanged and are dissatisfied should provide evidence to back his claim. With regards to Andrea Wunu's locus, I ask a very simple question. Can a simple student subvert a decision taken by a school administration together with representatives of the school's SRC? Well, it depends on what you're talking about, really. Franco Wusukwachi says, what interest do NDC and government have in the Fortis buying shares from Merchant Bank? Why are they defending what is perceived to be a bad deal? Thank you very much. Kojo Achirekwa, Prince Kojo Achirekwa says, which 1 year is President John Mahama and his government marking? Is it the failure of last year, the last 1 year, the broken economy or corruption era? Jerry Amponsa in New York writes, the main campaign promise of John Mahama in 2012 election was quality education, but in assuming office, he has largely failed in walking his own talk, broken promise. All right, thanks for your messages. I'll hear from George. We'll take a quick break. We'll come to continue with the pressing matters. When you hear the government label the year as responsible, accountable, and transparent, and you take this part of the whole issue about corruption, what's your assessment in respect of the JIDA, the SADA, the SUBA, and judgment debts?
Well, I think that, you see, we are all, again, going about in circles, shouting corruption, 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 without actually taking a step back to understand what it is. First and foremost, this president has been the most transparent president. You see, when they say that corruption is on the back burner because it is always in the news, and who puts it in the public domain? Incidentally, is the president. You will find that the president is always talking about ways to curb corruption.
Has he been compelled to talk about it?
No, consistently. And this is, for me, this is the only president who has even opened himself to such an extent that he even had time to spend with civil society organizations and all anti-corruption bodies in a marathon meeting trying to find out how collectively as a nation we would have to handle issues of corruption.
You sincerely believe it is not a result of the pressure from the media and the opposition or all other people who are concerned?
This is a president who has even gone ahead, knowing that most of the people who, for instance, in the JIDA report, who has been indicted, are people from our own era of governance. And yet, he gives a go-ahead, interrogate them. If you find them guilty, let the law take its course. All that he's doing, like Mr. Honorable Ayega said, would please some people. Some people would have, other views about it. Some people think that the process is too small. But we have two options. Either the president decides to go many years back and decides that, look, your name must be mentioned, have him shot. They say that you did this thing without you going through due process, have him locked up.
He can't do that. They are simply saying
Thank
that
you very
dismiss
much.
some of the people who are still within
So
you,
we are saying that
whose actions you have already pronounced a verdict on that were wrong.
Please, you see, there are several things that you have said. And for me, when we talk about it, sometimes when I sit by, for instance, Jake goes around and talks about Kufuor brought the procurement and then we have abused it. And then in the long run, he himself turns around and says that nothing has happened. So no procurement more practice because it hasn't been used, because no contract has been given. Where does it stand with this kind of argument? You see, we have a country to build. The president says that I've done 1 year in office. And we all know how that 1 year went. We've had court issues, we've had all sorts of distractions. For me, I am very happy and satisfied because for all these problems, the president has stayed focused. Look, in other countries, you would have heard that maybe at the end of the month, workers have not been paid, that there's this and that. But he has stayed focused.
You didn't hear of those stories?
That at the end of the month, core government workers had not been paid their salaries.
There were nurses.
No, you must differentiate those already on the pay bill. Nobody can come and say that at the end of the month you were not paid because we've had issues with single spine. That if you look at the budget statement, that the government's commitment to wages doubled, for instance. But some way, somehow, the president and his team were able to raise the necessary resources. And look, in the energy sector and other places, within all the difficulties and the challenges, a lot has happened. Even in education that people are complaining about, some real work has gone on. In health, some work has gone on. So, for me, you see, maybe the expectation has been a lot. But we all know that the president has not also pretended that we hadn't had challenges on the way. And part of the challenges even started from the very day he was elected. Some group of people who decided that they would never accept a defeat had to go to court. And we spent 8 months of productive time in court. But with all that, I am very satisfied that this president held this nation together. And indeed, I was happy the last time that Honorable Osei was actually admitting that because the president resourced the police, for instance, crime rate had dropped. And that's coming from people who never see anything good in this government. Shows that at least the president has done so much so well that at a certain point you cannot help but to admit that he has done well. So, from whichever angle, the president has not pretended that he solved all the problems of this country. He hasn't pretended that he's had all the answers and everything has gone smoothly.
Oh, that is too early to expect that he would have fulfilled all of those.
But we are saying that within the 1 year, the Dumso challenge, he came, he gave a deadline, he tried, has had one. Today as we sit here, we cannot say that we still have that same challenge. And it was a huge challenge. Most governments, when they confront them, takes 2 years.
Don't traverse all the matters because we'll be playing what the president had to say about energy and what the expectation should be in 2016. Okay. We'll play what the president has to say.
So basically, my position is that given transparency and responsibility and good governance, I think that on a score sheet of 10, I will give the president maybe 8/10.
Have you been a teacher before?
Well, yes.
Okay.
Yes, I've been a teacher before. So I think that
you promised me an opportunity to traverse some issues.
Which are those?
You did when I tried to intervene. One, he raised the issue about the president's meeting regarding merchant bank, and I just wanted to, from the way he went about it, it seems to me, like he admitted that there are many issues that he hasn't.
No, we have not dealt with that.
No. He raised it. He raised it, and I just wanted to.
We are coming to deal with that in respect of leadership and good governance. So just hold on. I'll come and we'll deal with that right away. We'll be right back after this break. This is Newsfile. You're welcome back. Forgive us, our text console is down, so we're using some of those, the messages that you're sending through email and also on our Facebook wall. Thank you very much indeed for sending them in and being part of this discussion. Now, the other aspect, and I'll begin with you, George. Some say the president missed a fantastic opportunity.
You're going to give me the opportunity to something that I think the Deputy Minister for Information sent.
That you
because it's the Deputy Minister
that
for
you sent NYEP personnel to private schools, which is illegal, and that you signed some letters as late as is it January 2009?
Well, I can't sign letters when I'm not in office. But if I'm in office, I can sign letters. So I couldn't have been signing letters after January 7, 2009. That's basic knowledge. But it seems like they are now discovering the records. Because they said there were no records during the NPP's time. But obviously they have the records. So when it suits them, they can't find the records.
They say there are no records.
When it suits them, they have the records. When it doesn't suit them, they say they can't find the records. But you see, this business about private people, there's a module under the NYP called the internship module that you can sign service contract with private people to post people to them under certain conditions. So, what the Deputy Minister is saying is neither here or there.
Thank you very much, Nana Kumia, for being very brief with that. Now, George, some say that the president missed a very nice opportunity to be frank with this particular matter about his alleged involvement or intervention in the indebtedness of his brother's company, EMP, to Merchant Bank, which we are told is the reason Merchant Bank got to its knees and had to now be sold off. That for him to have said categorically that there was no conflict of interest and that they didn't issue any directives to the managers, it's not good enough.
Well, thank you very much. It's plainly a matter of opinion. First and foremost, let me correct one thing. I have not heard, I haven't seen the evidence that it is because EMP owes Merchant Bank that Merchant Bank is on its knees. I haven't seen the evidence. What we know is that there are debtors to Merchant Bank. EMP is just one of them, and we know several others.
EMP is the biggest.
Well, in terms of quantum, but that alone, if you put all the others together, it's bigger than what EMP owes. It's only about 16%. Yes. So what about the other 70-something% or 80-something%? So really, it's an argument that is being put in the public domain to create some degree of mischief. But coming back to what the president said, you see, when you sit in a certain position, you are mandated and you are compelled to act in a certain way. Here is a vice president who has been invited by his boss to sit in a meeting. He sits in that meeting. He happens to have to do with a petition presented by the lawyers of his brother's company. The most important thing is not about whether he has that information or not. The meeting is an informational meeting. It's there to really let him know what is happening. The most important thing is the actions that follows that meeting. And Mr. President is saying that, hey, yes, I sat in a meeting. Well, the issue came up. But nobody, and he's challenging people to come out to say that, because you got to know that your brother's company is here and the bank is in jeopardy and that they are going to go after your brother, you said, look, don't do it. It hasn't happened. There is nowhere that it has been proven that he gave express orders that something should be happening. He says that he respects the sanctity of corporate entities. And he believes that, like all banks in Ghana, Merchant Bank was not set up to operate differently from all the other banks. And you are a lawyer, I'm a lawyer, we all meet in court. We represent banks, we go and retrieve debts. So he says that go and retrieve your debts. My brother or not, that's not the issue. The issue is that you are a bank, you gave out loans. And you see, when we are talking here in Ghana, I always marvel at the fact that suddenly we grip some small political point that we see and then we forget about the real picture. I'm saying that why is it so difficult, or has it been so difficult from 2007 till from 2003 to from I think 2007, that's when, Why haven't they been able to take any steps? Why didn't even the MPP who gave them, under whose regime that this thing was
back
given?
to the main point. He says, to the extent that no directives were given, no orders were made.
Yes.
Which he also says that at the point when he was president, he could have used his power.
Thank you.
In that manner.
Yes.
To the extent that he didn't do those things, we should not talk about conflict of interest. You just mentioned, you're a lawyer. From your understanding of the law, do you require a direct order in this particular situation to discern a conflict of interest situation in it?
Well, I don't know if the conflict of interest arose because he read the petition that his brother presented. You read things all the time. Why, if I write you a letter and you read it, does that ignite or invoke a conflict of interest situation? The president is saying that until or unless somebody is able to prove that, look, when the matter was reported to you, you told the person that, oh, you know, you hold on. I'll get back to you later. None of those has been. He attended the meeting, he left the meeting, went home. He didn't take any steps. He didn't get involved in any way that we can prove. So wherein lies the conflict of interest? Does that mean that if your brother sells clothes and you are the one who buys clothes for government, when you are passing his shop, you can't even stop by and say hello? I mean,
you disagree with those who say that
I think that
he would have done himself a lot of good if he had said, with the benefit of hindsight, I would not have gone into that meeting at all. I would not have participated in any meeting or any discussion that had to do with my brother's company.
My brother, the president was vice president. His boss had given him instructions. Okay? And don't forget that his boss possibly was aware that EMP was owned by Ibrahim. So, you refer things to your deputy, but this he said that it was a meeting that was convened and he was only one of the several people who sat in the meeting. It's not like there was a closed-door meeting within the bank and the president alone and he gave express interest. So I'm saying that you can go fishing for conflict of interest. But so far as my law and everything tells me, you can't find any.
Okay.
And the president
but you remember that there was not just one meeting.
And I'm saying that the president had very blatant in saying that, look, I prove that I said that, oh, merchant bank, this is my brother, so don't go after him.
Okay.
Or this or that. Nothing happened. So please, let's not go looking for things we don't have.
From your reading, you agree with those who criticize the president that, he missed an opportunity to have been forthright with Ghanaians, at least by saying, with the benefit of hindsight, I would not have, gone into those meetings.
See, the trouble with smoke and mirrors is ultimately the wind will blow the smoke away and the stones will crack the mirrors, and then you can start to see
a lot of smoke.
You can start to see some of the things that are there. Now we're told the president attended a meeting. Okay, we're not, and that at the behest of his boss, the president. What I don't understand is that did the president call the meeting and then asked because it had been called in response to the lawyer of the brothers' company, and therefore the president said, well, this will interest you because your brother is directly involved and this is public money, so come and sit in the meeting and just watch things or whatever? Or did the president ask him to go and sit with the board to find out a little bit more? I don't know what the details are. But at the end of the day, he was present at a meeting. And I would think that one of the reasons why he was there was because it was known that his brother's company was indebted, and that debt was causing some distress to the merchant bank. Whether it was sufficient to break the whole of the merchant bank or just break part of it or whatever, it was causing some distress to the merchant bank. That's why you are there. Therefore, my thing, if I'm in that situation, and I don't want a conflict of interest, whatever, I would have said very, very clearly, members of the board, although you are appointed by this office, the office of the president, you are responsible through this office to the people of Ghana for looking after their money. Get the money back. Come to us with a detailed plan, dated, about how you are going to get this money repaid. Because if I cast my mind back, I seem to remember something that...
This is where he didn't say anything and we are faulting him, and you are saying he should have, made
I said that
some direct orders.
If you expect certain things to happen, they don't happen. Things only happen that you inspect. Okay, what is the purpose of sitting in a meeting, okay, and then say that there was no intervention? What was the meeting for? Was the meeting not therefore about addressing how the bank was going to get its money back? If you've been asked to sit in there by your boss should you not have an opinion? Okay, let's see. All these things will come up. What was his opinion? How did he express his opinion?
Right.
Because if I remember rightly, and again I may be wrong, the experts are here, there was a dispute about changing the terms of the loan. And because of the dispute about changing terms of the loan, the debtor decided not to service the loan at all. How? How? You've agreed that you are borrowing money over 5 years. I come back and say, no, you must pay within 3 years. And then you are disputing that and quarreling. Don't you continue to pay back at the 5-year rate while the dispute is being resolved? And if you had continued for the paying at the 5-year rate, would that debt not have been paid off by now? Anyway.
All right. Let's hear Mahama on this. Yes.
It's a very simple matter. You give me a loan. And then what is the loan for? It's actually for earth-moving equipment so that I can service mines and the proceeds will pass through your account. You will take a certain percentage of the money to repay the loan. And we've agreed that over a 5-year period, we will be able to amortize to pay the loan. Then you give me a certain amount of it to service the machines, to buy fuel, pay the drivers, administrative expenses, so that the business can continue and then you'll be getting your percentage. After a while, several reasons have been given. I don't want to engage in the politics of it. You come and say, no. 5 years, no. 3 years. And I say, no, it's not possible to do this in 3 years. And secondly, you also say that because I've reduced it to 3 years, it means that the amount that you should pay monthly has increased. And I say, no. If you increase it, you deprive me of what I need to continue servicing the machines so that we can even pay you even the smaller amount that we ought to pay you over the 5-year period. That was the controversy.
So you don't pay at all?
No. That was the controversy.
So you don't pay at all?
No, you don't give me the money at all. The bank stopped giving EMP what they ought to take for administrative expenses. So EMP petitioned. EMP struggled with them, and ultimately they sent a petition to the office of the president. The bank complains that EMP is not paying, and then EMP also says that you are also not giving us what we need to be able to run. And probably my understanding is that they stopped relating to the bank in a way that will resolve the issues. So many other issues came up. EMP presented some alternative offers. They said, okay, we'll go to another bank, take the money, pay you off.
What we are discussing now is the presidency's role.
Yes. So I want him to understand the context in which the lawyers of EMP petitioned National Security, the Office of the President. And they referred the matter.
We have gone deeper in these matters than we are doing now.
They referred the matter to the President. The President, in dealing with it, decided to invite his vice to come and sit in. Like the President himself indicated, he believed that it was because his brother was mentioned and was involved that his boss invited him to sit in. He says, we sat in. They discussed it. I did not make any intervention. There were no orders to merchant bank that don't go and take your money. There were no orders to them as to, you must do this, you must not do that. The matter was discussed. Subsequently, when the late president passed away and he took over, consistent with what the Secretary to the President normally does, he writes a letter formally referring the petition to Merchant Bank that they should respond, just for the records. Is that okay? Then Merchant Bank, in responding to the petition, then makes reference to the fact that, this petition, in fact, meetings have been held to discuss all the issues, and these are the details of the meeting. That is record that is there at the Office of the President, because after the President Secretary, he wants records. No action was taken thereafter to stop Merchant Bank from going after EMP for their money or continuing to arrange with EMP as to the payment of their money. It is this record of the Merchant Bank formally replying to the referral of the petition to them to respond that is being held and brandished and the fact that there was a meeting at which the current president sat, it is being hyped. So, oh, there's conflict of interest. Why does he ever sit in a meeting in which his brother's company is an issue and a state asset is an issue? Why? Who else? Today, if there is a state, if today, is that okay? There is, when I say a state asset, I mean a public entity established by law in which resources. Yes, it is a private company. It is a private company. But the people who have, you see, I was trying to explain that when we're discussing the legal arrangement, but we didn't get the time.
I like you to finish your point on
precisely,
this matter
yes.
in the next minute.
Let's get back.
Yeah.
Yes, so that is what happened. The president said, yes, I sat in a meeting. I didn't in any way try to interfere in the work of Merchant Bank in relation to this particular loan. Subsequently, I became president. As president, there are ways in which you can, for instance, he is involved in the appointment of the SNIT board. The SNIT subsequently also then appoints the Merchant Bank board. So you can cascading in terms of your authority influence things. But he says, look, I've never tried to influence that. And says publicly, my brother should pay. Bank, go for your money. What else do you want him to say?
Professor Stephen Kwekwe-Asare in the United States of America.
Struggling to improve conflict of interest.
Who teaches in the United States of America, has written an article, and he's saying that you're beginning to change what is taught in the law school about what conflict of interest or potential conflict of interest is. Because you are looking for the president making a direct intervention. And that is not required in this matter.
Listen carefully. As president.
You are listening carefully.
As president, you cannot abdicate your responsibility as the head of the executive arm of government. It's not like a court where there are a panel of judges, and so you can empanel, and this judge will say, oh, because I have an interest in this matter, I'm recusing myself. President has no alternative. Are you getting my point?
Right.
And because he has no alternative, any matter that comes to him, he must look at it, but he has sworn an oath, is that okay, to enforce the law without fear or favor. At the end of the day, it is up to you as members of the public to assess and judge. And as for him, no matter what you say, Nana Akumia will judge and say that there was a conflict of interest, and the president shouldn't have sat in the meeting. Is that okay? The president shouldn't have sat in the meeting. No matter what you say, Nana Akumia will say that.
Okay.
Others. I haven't finished.
Thank you. Nana, let's hear you. Let's hear you.
I haven't finished.
This Minister for Information.
Let's hear you on that. Yes.
Let me inform my brother, Mr. Lowe, quickly, that there have been people on government payroll who haven't been paid for 21 months. Nurses. They came to your station here to protest. Subsequently, they started paying them.
21 months.
21 months.
Cannot be used to include the 1 year of President Mahama's administration. That means it predates his coming into office.
What was the whole of last year? They were not paid. 21 months is the whole of last year. 12 months.
Right. Go back to the information.
Can I
know what you are talking about.
What happened. The nurses, they came to your station here to complain. Subsequently, they started paying them.
It was because Ministry of...
Now,
why don't you want to discuss that? You just misled the public.
Mr. Lowe said, somebody praises the government and said, oh, the security situation, there seems to be a better visibility. Mr. Lowe says, yeah, these are people who always criticize the government. So when they say something positive, he doesn't even accept it. I don't understand this attitude. But anyway, that's by the way. Something, like you said, the president missed a good opportunity to be candid to Ghanaians on the Merchant Bank.
No. Please.
Oh, can I finish?
No.
Can I
to use the word candid is to say that the president has been dishonest with Ghanaians. No, that is the implication.
Can I go on?
No.
Can I go on?
Please. I think that it is unfair to keep insisting that there was no candor in the president's statement on Merchant Bank.
Something. You asked the question that did the president miss the opportunity to be candid? Isn't that the question you asked? And I'm saying to you that in my view, The president missed the opportunity to be candid. Ayariga says, why should I use candid? Yet when you ask the question using candid, he's sitting next to you. He's quiet.
I didn't hear him use the word candid.
Oh, you were deaf.
I didn't. No, I didn't.
You're running out of time.
I didn't use the word
But
candid.
Ayariga is deliberately doing that.
This is not deliberate.
He's pointed out to you that that's the wrong way to go about it.
I think that.
Can I go?
No.
Let me finish my point.
You are a senior brother. You are a senior brother. I have so much respect for you.
Keep it.
Let's take out the word candid. Let's take out the word candid.
Why are you blaming me on the program?
No. Let's take out the word candid.
Find
a replacement word.
The president was less than truthful.
Oh my God!
He missed the opportunity to be completely truthful on this matter. And you see, it's a messy.
I'm not. Look, I'm surprised.
Look,
I'm surprised.
If you read the president's own code of ethics that is issued to his ministers like Ayariga, read it. Last time you read it here to us. Clearly, he had violated his own code of ethics, and they've always been a code of ethics.
You don't also do that.
Which portion of the code of ethics?
Because the code of ethics did not exist at the time.
Code of ethics?
But that argument is even more dangerous. It's just
Which
common
portion
sense.
of the code
Can
of
I
ethics?
finish? Look, there have always been a code of ethics in government. J.J. Rawlings had a code of ethics. J.A. Kufuor had a code of ethics. Jake is sitting here. He'll tell you. J.J. Rawlings had a code of ethics. All of them included conflict of interest.
Are you sure?
I was part of J.A. Kufuor's government. Jake was part. I was in Parliament during J.J. Rawlings' government.
He managed to buy a state bungalow in which he was at.
I did not buy a state bungalow.
State bungalow.
I was not in
managed to buy a state bungalow.
You are a lawyer. You are a lawyer. You should be supporting the
That
Supreme
was
Court.
conflict of interest.
There was no conflict of interest. Go and read the judgment.
You took it to court.
Let
me go on. I don't speak for Jake. But you said there was a conflict of interest. You took it to court, and the matter was resolved. You see, the merchant bank is going down. The merchant bank is going down because of toxic debts. This business about it did not be true. Look, this is the workers themselves. The petition they wrote on the 16th of April 2013. They talked about the bank going down because of the toxic assets.
Yes.
The letter that was written to the presidency by the managing director and the board chairman itself, on page 3, talked about the bank going down because of the toxic assets.
Disputed that.
Yes.
The person who owes the biggest of the bad debts is Ibrahim.
No,
Less than
16%.
20%.
We're saying the biggest.
16%.
The biggest.
Honest. It is 16%.
Now, beyond it being
16%.
single, the president did not sit in meetings to discuss the toxic debts. It was to discuss the toxic debts of ENP.
Because they petitioned
Yes,
his boss.
exactly.
They petitioned his boss.
Can I finish?
Yes.
You have the letter written by ENP, by the merchant bank, signed by the board chairman, the managing director, both of them, talking about meetings held at the presidency on this same matter.
Yes.
The dealings between the bank and ENP. The company owned by the president's brother.
I spoke about that already.
Yeah. Now, the clear evidence. Why would the president be sitting in meetings to discuss? No, they even give you the agenda of the meeting. Say that the first meeting where the president was the chairman, discussed.
The former president. Let's be clear.
No. The first meeting was chaired by then Vice President John Mahama. This is the letter, page 2. That is clear back and white. And he said that the agenda was to discuss why the merchant bank was not advancing monies to ENP.
Yes.
I mean, what can be clearer than this? Then the second meeting where President Mills was president and John Mahama, the vice president, was present, it was to discuss the Avri Exim Bank facility of ENP, where the merchant bank had refused to cooperate. Yeah. What more do you need? Why would you be sitting in meetings to discuss your brother's dealings with a bank? Why would you be doing that? Now, the petition...
But when President Mills invited the vice president to join the meeting, at that time, there was no petition.
There was.
And that's what... no, there was no petition.
But that's even more serious.
Yeah.
That's even more serious.
No, but at that time, it was at the behest of the bank. That's what the president
but at that time, what
about.
it means that you were even sitting in meetings when there was no petition, where your brother your brother's dealings was the matter in discussion. Now, when you look at the petition written by engineers and the lawyer for engineers and planners, this business where the president didn't take any action. Let me answer it directly. The reliefs that the petition to the presidency was seeking is all stated on page 6 of Tony Littl's letter. It says that we want, 1, the bank to support the Avri Exim facility. 2, We want the money, the loan amount, to be reverted to 28 million. And number 3, we want the bank not to terminate the contract between it and ENP.
So which one was done at the
And none of it, all of these reliefs, all of these reliefs were not carried through. The bank did not move to terminate the contract. The Afri-Exim Bank,
okay,
that was the subject of the
just hold on a minute for me. So you are still on Newsfile on Joy 99.7 FM. You're also listening to us, watching us here on Joy News TV. This is your multi-TV, and I need to tell you that you can call these lines. There is a promo that is going on at Latida. They are offering you what they call the gift discount for their New Year fresh, shirts and dresses. 020-433-64444. The number is 020-433-644 or 0265-650-918. Just call them now, anytime from now, and they will attend to you. Thank you very much, gentlemen. I'm very sorry we have run out of time.
There are
major aspects. There are major aspects of the review that we could deal with, but unfortunately, we have run out of time. I'm sorry. This is where we bring down the curtains on the show. I'm Samson Ladiayendi. My guests have been Jake Obechebe Lamte, chairman of the NPP, Mahama Yarga, information minister and media relations. Dominic, sorry, I was expecting Dominic Nito, so it's on my lips. Nana Kumia, former communications director of the NPP. George Lowe is MP for North Dai. Thank you very much indeed. And Mutala is still saying that what you were saying was not correct because under the CETA, you couldn't have done what you had to do. Thank you very much. We'll come your way again next week.
Why haven't you prosecuted him?
Right.